Welcome to this CAMS training module. To get the best viewing results, please select the settings icon and choose 1080p, and then click on full screen mode. In this tutorial, we're going to show you how to set up a new monitored asset within CAMS. A monitored asset can be any type of asset, be it a residential or commercial building, a boat, vehicle, vending machines, and so on. Let's get started by double-clicking on the CAMS administrator icon. Enter your admin login credentials. The CAMS Admin Center menu will now appear. To get started, let's click on Assets. Now click on New. Select the bureau or monitoring company to which this new monitored asset will belong. Click Next. Select the account or group. This is useful for grouping assets within a bureau for situations such as offline assets, or assets that need to be grouped for accounting purposes, or assets that need to be geographically grouped based on location. The client type selection allows assets to be placed into groups for billing purposes. For each bureau, you can allocate global rates or individual rates for each client type. Please check out the CAMS tutorial entitled Adding Client Types to learn more about this important feature. You can also create asset templates that contain common information which can be reused when creating new assets to reduce unnecessary duplication of data entry. Enter fixed asset details. So you can click Find Next Available Client Code. This is a unique code CAMS will allocate and reference for this new asset that we're adding. Each bureau can have its own allowable range predefined to ensure that the assets for each individual bureau are logically grouped. However, this client code lookup is not enforced within the system. It's only suggested for housekeeping purposes. In other words, the CAMS operator can override the suggestion if and when necessary. Now enter the name of the asset. For this example, it's Hall Electronics. Click Next. Before clicking Apply, double check the details on the Confirm New Asset dialog. If it's all correct, click Apply. CAMS now has enough information to start monitoring that site. The Edit Asset details will now appear, which allows you to add more details about the asset. So we can add the street address, the city or suburb, nearest cross street, email address, and confirm the time zone. Now save the details. Obviously, it's always a good idea to add site phone numbers. A voice code can be entered. This is a unique confirmation code that only the asset contact and the control room operator knows. So in this example, if the site contact is asked for their voice code and they say safety first, then this confirms that they are the authorized contact. Let's save those details and now click on Contacts. I'll click on Add to add our first contact for Hall Electronics. You will notice as we start to enter the contact name, a short list appears below. These are all the contacts with the first name of David that have already been entered into the system. This is a global contacts list and is useful for allocating the same contact person already in the system to a new asset. This saves you having to re-enter the contact details and ensures you're not unnecessarily duplicating the same contact in the system. As we enter the surname of Taylor, you'll see that the shortlist disappears, which confirms this is the first David Taylor we've entered into CAMS. We'll enter all the relevant details we've been given for this contact. Clicking Create will add and link the contact to the asset. You can add as many contacts as you like, and we'll add one more. Within CAMS, you can allocate or prioritize alarms based on weekdays and/or alarm types that each contact will respond to. To set this up, select a contact from the list, and I'll check the Use Site-Specific Contact Settings function. Now, when you check this box, it means that any schedule, alarms, and so on that you set up here will only apply to this contact for this site. If you don't select this box, then the schedules and events set up become a global setting that is used for all sites that this specific contact is linked with. As I only want to apply the settings for this contact and this site, I'll leave the Use Site-Specific Contact Settings box checked and click Edit. Let's say Stephen prefers to be notified of alarms during 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So we'll allocate those times, now represented in green on the calendar, and click Apply. If we push Stephen up to the top of the list, this means he'll be the first contact the operator will call if an alarm goes off during the green area, being Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. If an alarm goes off outside of those times, then he will not be the first to be contacted. Let's now configure the alarm filter for David. So we'll select David from the contacts list and check the Use Site-Specific Contact Settings function and go to the Alarm Filter dropdown. David has specified he only wants to be contacted when specific alarms occur, so we'll select only these alarms, then click on Select Event Types and choose the events that David has specified he wants to be immediately notified of. Click Apply. So now David will only be on the call-out list for these alarms. David is also the key holder for Hall Electronics, so we'll also check the box and issue the key ID. The SMS feature is a key part of the CAMS system and fairly comprehensive, and is covered in a separate training module available within the CAMS training portal. Let's now go into the Zones tab. We've been given a few zones for this site by the client, which we'll now add, and we'll name each one accordingly. Update zone and repeat the process for each one. You can actually customize each zone. For example, we can create an alert if a restore is not received within a predefined time. So to explain this further, let's add a new zone and call it Panic Button. Let's say the button needs to be restored with a key switch. So once it's activated, it must be reset with a key before it can be rearmed. We'll check the Alert if Restore is not received box and allocate a 30-minute restore all time period. So if it's not restored within that time frame, the operator is notified within CAMS. Click Update Zone to save the settings. We'll take a look at another example. Let's click on Office. It's not unusual for office staff to inadvertently set off the office alarm on entry, so we can check Cancel Alert if Open is received within 5 minutes. So with this setting, now if the office PIR, for example, sets off the alarm, the control room operator won't see the alarm for 5 minutes. This will give the office staff enough time to turn off the alarm and not waste the operator's time. If an open event has not been received after the 5 minutes has elapsed, then the office zone alarm will be presented by CAMS to the control room operator for actioning. Let's consider another example of how we can reduce unnecessary false alarms to help the operators manage alarms more efficiently. So I'll add another zone and call it Fire Escape. Now this fire escape is often accessed by staff at Hall Electronics during office hours for cigarette and coffee breaks. So that the operator is not bothered with constant alarms triggered by the office staff using the fire escape, we can check the auto log events function and enter regular office hours, say 9 to 5:30 p.m, and add Monday to Friday. If we select the Exclude on Holidays option, then this schedule would not apply on public holidays, for example, that may fall on a weekday. With this setup, CAMS will only notify the operator of a fire escape alarm outside of office hours. We can also customize responses per zone, but this feature is fairly comprehensive and is covered in another CAMS training module. We can create site users. These are individuals that in this case have access to the site, so would have access to the alarm panel PIN codes or have door swipe card access to the site. So let's start by adding some new users. Entering the alarm PIN codes into CAMS is optional, but it is a good idea as it acts as a means of storing the alarm panel information in a central location. So in the case where the user forgets their PIN access codes, they could contact the CAMS control room, and once their voice code has been verified by the operator, they can then retrieve their PIN. Click Update User to save the site user information. Let's now add a cleaner who has out-of-hours access to the site. We'll check the out-of-hours entry box and define how much time access the cleaner has to the site. So this tells CAMS that the cleaner is allowed entry for a predefined time outside of closing hours, and a temporary schedule is allocated in the system for that time. Let's now go into the Schedules tab. If we click on one of the fields, we can create individual schedules for each day, or one global schedule for the entire week. For this example, we'll create a global schedule opening at 8 AM and closing at 6 PM. For each schedule, we can add a violation setting. So for example, if the site has not been closed after 30 minutes of the scheduled closing time, the operator is notified within CAMS. And we can create an alert if they haven't opened within, say, 15 minutes of the opening time, and another alert if they're early to open, let's say by more than 30 minutes. The clear unscheduled opening by close event option is there, for example, if there's a late to close, but then the site is armed. In that case, the late to close is automatically cleared. Don't forget to save your settings once you're finished. Responses. This determines how operators respond to specific alarms. Within CAMS, there's a default response for each alarm type. These are the most common or standard forms of response. By having the default responses already within the CAMS system will save you a lot of time in terms of data entry. However, these can be customized to suit the specific needs of the asset. For example, let's take a quick look at the default response plan for burglary. The default response in the system is call contacts only. However, Hall Electronics may wish to override this default response and instead have the operator only call the first contact. This would be an unusual request in most cases, but we're highlighting the point that you can quickly enter exceptions to the rule when it comes to the operator responses. We can further customize this according to the zone. So I'll click Save and then head over to the Zones tab. So for the fire escape burglary alarm, we can override the default response and enter Call Police. So based on what we've entered, if a burglary alarm is set off in the fire escape, the response plan would be to call the police. For a burglary alarm on any other zone, the response plan is to only call first contact. We can also force the operator to respond by making a phone call when a burglary alarm is received, and you can also select this option, Do Not Include in Finalize All. Now, the advantage to selecting this feature is that it will ensure a high priority alarm such as burglary is not listed with lower priority alarms and then accidentally deleted or finalized by the operator. Okay, let's take a look at notes. In general notes, this is where you would add additional notes relevant to the site, or it could be useful information for the patrol being sent out, such as a hidden key location, or to warn the patrol that there may be a guard dog on site. Temporary notes. This could be information that is related to something non-permanent, such as school holidays. And you can allocate a beginning and ending date for the temporary note. The red highlighted date indicates that this temporary note has not come into effect as yet, as it's been set to a future date. Confidential note. This would only be accessible by control room operators who have a higher access level within CAMS. This could be site-sensitive information and can also be included in the client report. Notepad. This is internal information primarily used by the operators. These notes are not supplied to the client, so can be more open. It's dialogue that operators can enter and share within the control room pertaining to the client or the asset. In the References tab, you can store any standard documents such as contracts or site documents. This would be any type of text, PDF or Word documents, spreadsheets and so on. If the software is available on the local hard drive of the CAMS computer to support the documents, they can be stored and accessed here. Installation. This is a useful area within CAMS that enables you to specify what type of alarm and surveillance equipment was installed on site, when and by whom. You can enter in specific information such as master pins, basically any relevant information that could be useful for when sending out a technician for service. The format template is important. This is the dictionary for converting alarm panel codes into something that is readable by the operator, and we'll cover this area in more detail in another training module. Click to save your information. Service. Here we can create an alarm if no alarm events have been received within a specified time period. So for example, we can set up an alert if no alarm has been received within a 24-hour time frame, and we can add, let's say, a 1-hour tolerance. So to activate this, we can check the Create Alarm event, and we can also have CAMS automatically contact a technician by selecting Create Service Request, as there could be a chance that the alarm is faulty. Finally, by selecting this option, we can also have CAMS create an alert if the test signal from the alarm is not received within a 24-hour period. Once you've finished configuring the page, click to save the settings. And finally, under Images, you can upload any relevant site images. These could be floor plans, photos of the site, Google Map images, and so on.